Well, it's a pleasure to be with you one more time. I'm going to talk about an interesting topic today called as the theology of rest. Now, have you ever wondered that among all the important instructions that God wanted to give us people, the people of Israel, through the Ten Commandments, one of the commandments that God gives them is about rest. In fact, the fifth commandment is but remember the Shabatt. Now, what got me thinking was this. If Shabatt, or the day of rest, was so important for God that He made it mandatory for His people to observe, there must have been some significance in the observance itself. Don't you think so? Look at Exodus 20 and 8 to 11. God says, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or your daughter, nor your male or your female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, but He rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it holy. Now it's very interesting, isn't it? Exodus 20 ties the observance of the Sabbath day to God's creation. It says, for God rested on the seventh day. Now, of course, God did not rest out of exhaustion, but as a result of completion. For God never gets weary, is what Psalm 121 and verse 4 says. But I'm fully confident that none of you will say, you are God, or I am God, and therefore you have never been exhausted in life. If you're like me, flesh and blood, we are totally depleted at times, especially by the end of the week. While we, of course, celebrate over all that is done in the week's time too. But we would recognize and acknowledge the depletion that comes into each one of our lives. So what are the practical implications of God resting after His creation for us today? It is very simple, I would think. We must also rest ourselves. Now, who of us would disagree that our schedules have just gotten more fuller each passing month? There are kids' activities, there are church events, work projects, social commitments, studies, and the list keeps adding and adding with every passing day. And to top it all, we have the added nuance of the Zoom meetings now. Believe me, the commitments in our life, unless you're already drained, will definitely drain us. They will suck the life out of us, and as a result, oftentimes we will run on empty tanks. It is here where Timothy Keller writes in so beautifully well. He says to rest is actually a way to enjoy and honor the goodness of God's creation and our own. To violate the rhythm of work and rest leads to chaos in our life and in the world around us. Sabbath is therefore a celebration of our design. So what does the rest do to us? First, I think the idea of rest exposes the object of your trust and my trust. You see, God appointed the Shabatt to remind us that He is working and He is resting. So to practice Shabatt is a discipline and a faithful way to remember that you are not the one who keeps the world running. You are not the one who provides for your family, not even the one who keeps your work moving forward, but it is God. Do you find it hard to rest? So perhaps are you finding it hard to trust God? In fact, the Bible asks us to be still and to know that He is God. Second, of course, rest exposes our source of identity. Now, in our Asian culture, work is God, isn't it? Work is equalized to being productive. So not to work is basically being unproductive or lazy. But for us, as a Christian, our source of identity is God and God alone and not our work. And by taking rest from our work, we reinforce our source of identity. Third, I think rest exposes our heart. While resting, do you find yourself worried? You remember things that you have not done all of a sudden and you hurry to do it and you become restless over the things that you have not done? Do you find yourself looking for your phone or perhaps looking for your laptop? Remember what Jesus said, therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body as to what you will put on. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? What are the things that distract you in your life? You see, oftentimes we think rest means to be lazy. It means to chill out at home and do absolutely nothing. While of course, there may be an element of that in a restful time, that is not the whole story. So what does it really mean to rest for each one of us? I think you might want to remember it by the 3 R's now. The first one is rest is about renewal. You see, the Wesleyan bands, the smaller groups got together, and the first thing that they would ask each other was a backstage question, and that was, how is it with your soul? How is it with your soul? Please remember, our souls need to be cared for just as much we care for our physical body. That means as much as our physical health is important, so much so important is your soul as well. It is Mother Teresa who said, to keep a lamp burning, we have to put oil in it. To keep the lamp burning, we have to put oil in it. So can I ask you, how is it with your soul? When was the last time you took a vacation, not just to refresh your body, but to refresh your soul as well? Second R, the rest is about recovery. Let us not forget that your body is the temple of the living God, and we are called to look after it. God has put in a rhythm, not just in the nature, but in each one of us to recover. Hence, it is important to recover our drained bodies and receive abundant rest, which includes sleeping well at night. Well, it is to understand our limits and knowing how we are handling our daily pressures. If some of you are overwhelmed by life, and believe me, life can really slip out of hand, please do not hesitate to get professional help. Third R, I think, is rest being about refreshment. Ask a couple who has just become a parent. Ask a teacher who has to teach 6 days a week, or a student who is preparing for entrance exam, or someone who is at 9 to 5 job, if they need to be refreshed, and I think the answer would be resounding yes. I think learning what energizes us and brings refreshment to us is very, very important. You see, we cannot make withdrawals without making deposits. We will certainly burn out. So let me recap it quickly for us. What does rest do to us? First, the idea of rest exposes the very object of our trust. Second, the idea of rest exposes our source of identity. And third, the idea of rest exposes our own very heart. So what does it really mean to rest now? First, I think rest is about renewal, rest is about recovery, and rest is about refreshment. Let me finish with a quote from Erwin McManus, and he says it very well. If you don't take time away from the world around you, you're going to get pulled down by the world around you. If you do not take away your time from the world around you, you're certainly going to get pulled down by the world around you. And I think that is bang on, and that is true. How will you take deep rest is a question we are posing in this talk.